Hello and welcome from TG Squared Studios to this episode of TGGeeks.com Webcast, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about sci-fi, comics, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. This week we're going to continue with our part 2 of our season finales, and we're going to let Ben introduce the shows we're going to talk about.
Well, first one we're going to talk about is, I think this is probably one of the series that everybody was in love with, and that's Arrow. Now, it had something very scary it had to deal with, and that is it was going into season 2. Now, so many television shows have had phenomenal first season runs, and so then there's all this great anticipation for season 2, and then for some reason the series doesn't quite live up to expectation. Something goes wrong. I've seen a lot of television shows fall by the wayside for with what I don't know what you call it, a second season curse. What did you think of Arrow's second season in relation to their first?
Well, I thought it was as good as the first, actually. I thought it picked up speed. It hit the ground running. I thought it was really good for a second season compared to the first season. The first season was absolutely incredible, but this one was equally as incredible.
What did you think of the way they were doing the flashbacks?
Unfortunately, I find them a little tedious sometimes. It's one of those things where, oh my gosh, they're giving us just enough information, but not enough. But I liked the flashbacks, but they did wear on me a little bit.
I think, yeah, okay. I suppose that there are times where maybe you're more interested in finding out what's happening in present day in Starling City. And there were some times, okay, and I want to talk about this regarding the finale. Here is finally the big showdown between Arrow and Deathstroke.
Right.
And they keep interchanging it from present day to past as Oliver has to fight him again on the sub on the island.
Right.
And so they were jumping back and forth, and I wouldn't exactly say that the fighting matched each other, because they didn't necessarily do that. So there was something that was it didn't quite connect, I thought.
Right.
And it was happening too much. I was like, okay, I know what's going to happen. I mean, we know that he's got, Deathstroke's going to lose his eye. We know that Oliver's going to shoot him with an arrow. I mean, that's all a given. So let's just kind of like move on with that. We're more concerned with what's going to happen now.
Right. Well, and some of the other things that they cover in the flashbacks, it's like, okay, it's great backstory, but sometimes flashback is supposed to be relatively short, and some of them got a little long.
Some of them were long, but I have noticed that they're
giving us a lot of information.
They're giving us a ton of information. One of the things that I think that's really wonderful is they will tell some part of the story in the flashback, which then directly relates to what's happening to Oliver now.
Right.
Or it could be setting something up for Oliver in the future. And I have I'm not going to spill anything, but I wrote an article for our website, which you can see at tggeeks.com, where I talk about that regarding the third season of Arrow and a certain character that's going to appear in the flashback sequence, who I think is going to play a major role towards the end in Starling City. So we've got all that to look forward to. For me, I thought the second season was really powerful. It, as you said, it hit the ground running. They keep introducing new elements into the show. All these new DC elements were coming in. And one of the things that I just really, really loved was how they introduced the Black Canary. I thought she was a fascinating character. They did some really great surprises in that she was somebody I didn't expect her to be. And, of course, something that I thought was really great that maybe comic book nerds would really kind of just totally jazz out on is it turns out she was a member of the League of Assassins, and she operated under Ra's al Ghul, who, if everybody remembers the Batman Begins movie, Ra's al Ghul is the one who trained Bruce Wayne in his fighting skills. So DC's kind of playing a little bit with that synergy, like Marvel is. I mean, we don't know to what degree, but when you kind of build a big universe, when you're doing universe building like that, I think It's a great thing. It helps benefit the show.
Right. And you kind of nerd about that and geek about the comic book world, and as I've said previously, I'm not really big on comic books, but there is enough information here, and with you helping me understand the universe, it really is. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Now I will admit that unlike Marvel, the DC shows, I think maybe it helps to kind of know a little bit of something, because I remember at one point when they introduced Laurel, and then we find out that actually her first name is Dinah. And I remember I grabbed the remote and I paused and said, "That's the girl who's going to become Black Canary." And of course, story has it that she probably will later on down the road. I have no idea when. But yeah, so I think there was a lot of little Easter eggs they were giving people who knew the show, but it was not necessary to enjoy the show.
Right.
So what do you think of that finale as a whole, though?
Oh my gosh, it was
a lot of action, a lot of fighting,
a lot of action, a lot of fighting.
One of the things that I think really tripped a lot of people up was a little bit of subterfuge on Oliver's part that he did with Felicity Smoke.
That little deception.
The little bit of deception by kind of planting the idea that actually he was in love with her. It was all an attempt to completely trick Deathstroke.
Yeah, kind of gave him just a little bit of a leg up there.
Yeah, so Slade would then go and kidnap her. But of course, all the fans are like, "Oh my God, Oliver!" Because everybody kind of likes the Oliver Felicity thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really cute together.
Yeah, and she's kind of got a crush on him.
Yeah, and she's really a neat person.
Yeah, I like Felicity a lot.
I mean, we all love Felicity. I mean, I think we all like Felicity better than we like Dana or Laurel, I should say. But at the same time, they can't stray too far from the comic book myths. So.
Right.
But all in all, I think it was an excellent second season.
Yes.
And that finale was absolutely amazing.
Well, and the final scene.
Oh.
Yes.
On the island. On the island, I know. Yeah, and which is funny because that's pretty much how the second season began, in present day, with Oliver on the island. So now the season sort of ends that way again, present day, on the island.
Exactly.
So then, of course, where does the flashback end? Not on the island.
Exactly.
The flashback ends in China, of all places.
Well,
Hong
Kong.
Hong Kong, to be precise. So, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see where this new season is going to go. We're all very, very excited about it.
Yes.
Very, very excited.
All right.
Okay, so now I want to talk about the big Iron Throne in the room. Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Oh, my God.
Okay. Let me just start off with this. Now, with all the seasons that we've seen so far, in relation to this one, would you have to agree this is the bloodiest season we've had?
Yeah, it was an awfully bloody ride.
It was a horribly bloody ride. Last year, the big bloodshed didn't. For the first couple of seasons, actually, the bloodshed really doesn't happen until the penultimate episode of the year. And we didn't get that this time. It was death.
Every episode.
Death almost every episode. And one of the first ones that I think was the most shocking was the death of Joffrey.
Yes. Oh, my God. I was like, what?
King Jerk.
Yes. He was a prat.
Oh, God, annoying little twit. I just really couldn't stand him. I wanted to pinch his head off. And all of a sudden, we get to see him just die. So that was a huge shock, I think, for a lot of people. And that set the stage for what was going to be just bloodshed after bloodshed after bloodshed after bloodshed.
Oh, yeah. It was just nonstop this season.
Of course, there was a lot of concern as to what was going to happen to Tyrion.
Yeah. I was so afraid they were going to kill him off, but
I think a lot of us were. Now, granted, neither of us have read the books.
Nope.
So we have no idea what happens to the character of Tyrion. And from all we can tell so far, I mean, we've seen some beloved characters get killed.
Right. And we were talking about it before we saw the last episode, the last two episodes. We were talking about, oh my gosh, if they kill Tyrion, I mean, it's like we don't know anything about him from the books, so we don't know whether he was a popular character or an unpopular character in the books, but he certainly became a popular character thanks to
that would be Peter Dinklage.
Yes, Peter. How could I forget his name? Yeah. So we thought, well, okay, what happens?
Yeah, that was the big concern, and I remember a lot of people say, "Oh, they can't kill Tyrion. They can't kill Tyrion. Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage. He's just way too popular. You can't kill him." Yeah. And I kept thinking, yeah, but as you pointed out, Tyrion is not Peter Dinklage.
Right.
Tyrion, maybe it was
Peter Dinklage is Tyrion, and he's made him popular.
right. But maybe Tyrion in the book was meant to die early on. Luckily, we didn't get that. I mean, luckily he's...
I was very pleased at how he asserted himself and... of all things.
Of all things. Now, how did we like that lovely little finale? I mean, yet again, there's more bloodshed.
It just went right in the toilet.
But yeah, quite literally, it really does go in the toilet. I mean, Tyrion first, he's accused of murder, even though his father, Tywin, knows he didn't do it. So then what does Tyrion do? He decides to kind of fulfill the accusation anyway and kills off his father and his ex-girlfriend, I guess you would call it.
Yes. And then we have all the other story arcs going on. The Wall, oh my gosh, that was the big episode next to last episode.
The big battle.
And then we have the arc with Bran, and I'm just...
Oh, what is that all about?
Wow, that's incredible.
Now, that was the storyline that a lot of people were kind of really blah about, and I could understand why, because really nothing was happening.
I foresee some big things.
Oh, yeah. Keith and I, we've had some really great talks, and given what has happened to...
Khaleesi.
The Khaleesi and her dragons.
Yes.
Yeah, Daenerys. What she's had to do with her dragons, at least 2 of the 3.
Yes.
The third one is still missing. She can't control the third one.
Yep, and she really can't control the other 2 either.
Well, we don't. We don't really know much about the other 2. The other 2 don't seem to be that disobedient. I mean, they're kind of feisty, but they're not killers. It was the third one that got away.
Right.
That's the one that is a problem.
And as I said, we both said we have not read the books, but I foresee, because of Bran's power, I foresee him being able to take over the dragons, and there is some kind of alliance that's going to be there between the North and Daenerys, or something to that effect.
And there's a great line that happens in the finale where that old wizardy guy in the tree, he when Bran says, "Will I be able to walk?" and he says, "No, but you will fly."
Yes, exactly.
So there's clearly something that's going to be happening there.
And
now
of course, then there's the piece about Arya.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, she has certainly turned into a...
Well, she was predicted to become a killer.
Yep, by the Red Witch.
The Red Witch.
And that whole thing.
Yeah, what? Yeah,
what the heck happened there?
Let's briefly talk about the Red Witch just for a short second. Here she presents herself to have all this great supernatural power, and while we believe she's got the supernatural power, she takes one look at Arya and predicts her to be this horribly blood-soaked person, and then we find out the woman's a fraud.
Yep.
It's all trickery. She admits it.
Yep.
To Stannis' wife.
And then Stannis shows up at the Wall, of all places.
Yeah.
Or on the other side of the wall, of all places.
Yeah, to fight off the to control the wildlings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
what a bloody ride. Oh my God.
It was a horribly bloody ride. I mean, that series just went in all sorts of insane directions. And of course, with a cast of 1 billion people, it does get very, very hard to keep track of everybody in the show. But what we were given this season, I think, what was horribly exciting, although I'm really getting sick and tired of them constantly saying, winter is coming, winter is coming. Oh, bloody hell, just let the winter arrive, okay?
Yeah, really.
I mean, I want to see the White Walkers do their thing, and I want to see the big battle between that. I mean, they've been talking about that for some time now, so
right.
I'm kind of getting a little tired of, the constant threat that winter is coming. So I'm very excited to see where this is now all going to go. I thought the finale was very exciting. In fact, I would say that of the finales, this was the best one that we just had.
Yeah.
Because the previous finales, they were all situations where the dust had to kind of settle after the big penultimate death. First was Ned Stark, and then it was Robb Stark.
Right.
The year after, along with his mother.
The Red Wedding, yeah.
Yeah, at the Red Wedding. So we had all the penultimate episodes were always the big tragic ones, and then the final episode was kind of, I wouldn't call it anticlimactic, but sort of, let's just kind of like assess the situation and catch our breath. We didn't get that this time.
And this one went out with a bang.
This one went out with a huge bang. Actually went out with a lot of water, and that is Arya sailing off to heaven only knows where.
And Tyrion and Varys.
are they're on a boat. Yep. So there's a lot of interesting little intrigue going on here right now. I kind of Pieces have been moved. I mean, if you want to look at it like a table or a chess game, all the pieces are just now all over the place.
Exactly.
So it'd be fascinating to see where the show's going to go. I was very happy with the way the series ended this year. There's still talk about maybe expanding the series to 13 episodes per year instead of just 10.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I think that's what George R. Martin wants. We'll have to wait and see on that. So I think that kind of I'd have to say Game of Thrones was probably one of the most exciting things I'd ever seen for this year.
All right. After that, let's take a little break.
You can find culture at the theater. You can find culture in the bottom of an unwashed coffee mug. Or you can find culture on your iPod. Join Brad, Glenn, and Christina on Pod Culture, Equal Opportunity Geekness. Go to www.podculture.net.
Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to talk about a crime that was committed when this series was canceled.
Now, this one's going to catch a lot of people by surprise. Enlisted. This was a comedy. It's what I think what they would call a single camera comedy that was on Fox. It was only had a 13 episode run, and basically it was about what they call the Rear Division. This is the team. They stay at home. They take care of things for the military families, for all the deployed soldiers that are overseas. I tuned on to this because of some trivial curiosity based on just some clips that I saw. So I thought, okay, well, I'm curious. I'll take a gander at it. And from the very first episode, there were some absolutely hilarious moments and gags in this entire series that it grabbed me immediately.
Right. It was very funny. It was very smart, very funny, very human. You know, they talked about some difficult things that soldiers face. It was just a really good show. One of
I'm glad you mentioned that. There's one episode that really dealt with I guess you call him the star of the show, and that's the character of Sergeant Pete Hill, as played by, I believe it's Jeff Stultz. He just came back from fighting in Afghanistan, and now he's trying to find a place away from the barracks. He wants a place of his own because it turns out the guy's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And it was handled in a very serious and very, very beautiful sort of way.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw all the people under his command, which include two of his brothers, of all people, and they just kind of wanted to keep hanging around with him and kind of partying with him. And there's this poor man's trying to deal with what he's been through, partly survivor's guilt, among other things. And the only way he could do that was through solitude. And the way they addressed that, I thought was, it had a very serious tone to it.
Yep.
But at no time did it sacrifice the humor.
Right.
I mean, again, I think you nailed it when you said this was very, very smart writing.
Yeah, very smart and very well written from the human aspect of knowing what soldiers face and what they deal with when they come home, or if they've never been deployed, or having families while they're deployed. What happens to their families while they're deployed? And so they touched on all these things during those 13 episodes. Was it 13?
It was 13
episodes that they had, and the finale episode was just touching.
I would call that a tearjerker.
Oh my God! It was. It did bring tears.
It brought tears to my eyes. I was moved to tears. It was so beautifully done. I mean, and there's a lot of humor throughout the entire buildup. But there's this beautiful scene at the end where, again, the main character Pete he's now having to once again face the survivor's guilt and coming to realize that that's something he's going to have to face every day for the rest of his life. It's never going to go away. All he has to do is he has to find some way to learn to live with it.
Yep. Instead
of it just going away. And how everybody rallies around him.
Yep.
Is such a beautiful way. And I'm a big believer in the concept of family, and the way the two brothers came in to show their support for him at that moment. I think that was the moment where I just completely lost it, and I just found myself tears coming out of my eyes. It was so beautiful. And I had tweeted with the producers of the show, and they were enormously proud of it, and they had told me in private messages that the cast was enormously proud of it, and you could see how proud they were of that show, given the performances that they gave us. There was no question that they believed in what they were giving us.
Yep.
And to have this show canceled, I don't know if I don't think this was a matter of the show being aired out of order. It might have been, it might not have been. I have no idea.
I think a couple of them were aired
out of
order.
It might have been. I think there was some issue with one of the brothers, his girlfriend. First she's the girlfriend, and now he's meeting her for the first time. So there might have been a little bit of that, but that wasn't enough to really
right.
screw the story.
I think I don't know why. I mean, we watched it on Hulu,
right?
But.
It might have been on at a really goofy
it may have been on a
slot.
goofy time slot or something. I don't know why it got canceled, but I thought it was an excellent show, and I think it was a crime for it to have been canceled.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still some talk about maybe trying to sell it to Netflix. I mean, I would only hope so, because the show, it deserves to be on, because as you pointed out, it touches on some very serious issues, but at the same time, they provide us with laughter. So that we're not having to constantly face all the pain and the dark aspects that come with the military life, especially in a time of military conflict.
Yep.
So,
all right. Before we go, here's something about the Prescott Film Festival.
If you're in Arizona in July, you might want to check out the Prescott Film Festival July 23rd through 27th. That's just a couple of weeks away at Yavapai Community College, and the events include film screenings, Oxymorons, a one-act play starring Ed Asner and Mark Rydell, wine tasting, as well as a workshop by renowned sci-fi author Alan Dean Foster, who happens to be a resident of Prescott. And he will be there on the importance and impact of the book Dune to the sci-fi world, as well as screen the documentary Jodorowsky's Dune, which is the story of cult film director Alejandro Jodorowsky and his ambitious but ultimately doomed film adaptation of the seminal science fiction novel, and that will be also hosted by Alan Dean Foster. For more information, just go to PrescottFilmFestival.com.
That should just about do it from TG Squared Studios. I'm Keith Lane for the TG Geeks webcast. Peace.
Cheers.